Hello ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. First, our major stories. A teacher of government practicing primary school in Kribi in the south region of Cameroon slumps and dies while in class. The death of the class 4 teacher known as Michelle Ndiba left many in a state of despair. Meanwhile, a woman and her 2 kids allegedly died of food poisoning in Melong. It is a neighborhood in the Mungo division. We'll be coming up with greater details in the course of this newscast. Away from that, the Cameroon Bar Association, human rights defenders and political actors condemn in strongest terms the torture inflicted on Barrister Tampo Richard by elements of the National Gendarmerie yesterday while he was exercising his duty as a lawyer. And the barrister is said to have been inflicted pain by elements of the National Gendarmerie while he was defending a client who was being arbitrarily arrested by the forces of law and order. The Cameroon Bar Council president says enough is enough. Those are major stories. Stay with us for details and more. If you're just joining us, then no, you are watching a 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television, and for presentation, I am Immaculate Fogwe. Gendarme officers in the Mungo division have opened investigations after a woman and her twin babies died. It is alleged they suffered from food poisoning, which is another case that is being recorded in that country. According to reports, the 3 of them gushed out foam shortly after eating food reportedly offered to them by their neighbor. Anabila takes us to the Cité des Anges neighborhood in Melong, where the incident happened.
Shock and confusion at Cité des Anges, a neighborhood of Melong in the Mungo division of the Littoral region. A lady in her late 20s and her twin girls aged 4 months died suddenly, allegedly from food poisoning. According to the father-in-law of the deceased, Francois Nangalamo, the children and their mom were doing just fine few minutes before the tragedy.
Elle se portait très bien, personne n'était malade. Personne n'était malade, même pas un mot de tête.
He explains further that the 3 left him in the parlor and went to bed shortly after eating food allegedly offered them by a neighbor. Asked if they drank any liquid like water and juice after eating, the answer:
Boisson liquide, oui.
Non, ils ont bu l'eau, ils mangent, on peut pas tuer l'ennemi.
A loud cry from one of the twins alerted the grandfather. Upon arrival in the room where they went to sleep with their mom, it was discovered that foam was oozing from their mouths and nostrils.
La manière de baver était comme si on est sorti par derrière la frappé avec un coup de marteau. Parce que ça sortait follement.
Their mother, besides foaming, was severely bleeding. A medical practitioner at the Loum District Hospital who was called said the 3 victims showed visible signs of food poisoning.
Après notre analyse, nous pouvons dire que c'est une décès causé par l'intoxication alimentaire. Mais on a prescrit une autopsie.
The quarter-head of Cité des Anges, Folefak Maurice, says it's not the first time such a tragedy is happening in his neighborhood.
On essaie de voir vraiment qu'est-ce qui est à l'origine de la mort de ces enfants, même si la maman, oui, si la maman a insulté quelqu'un, qu'est-ce que les enfants, les innocents ont fait?
Gendarme officers in Melong, after investigations at Cité des Anges, transported the 3 corpses to the Melong District Hospital. Further investigations have been opened to determine the actual cause of the death of the 4-month-old twin girls and their mother.
Still on our human interest page, a teacher of government practicing primary school has collapsed and died while teaching in the classroom in Kribi. Michelle Ndiba, according to her colleagues, was healthy when she arrived on campus. Her death has left her class 4 pupils and the entire school community in shock. Smaji Kangero reports.
Class 4 pupils of the government practicing primary school Kribi Center are lonely after their teacher, Michelle Ndiba, died while teaching. It's just her white robe that was left on the chair in the classroom. I bought drugs with my own money and I was handed my change. Then a nurse came and dragged the bag of drugs from my hands, asking the pharmacist to return my money. It was a rather timid ambience that characterized the premises of the government practicing primary school upon their arrival arrival of the Equinoxe media team. According to many of her colleagues, Michelle Ndiba showed no signs of sickness. At the regional hospital annex of Kribi, where she was rushed to, it was just to confirm about her demise. The death of the primary school teacher brings to a total of 3 persons who have died suddenly, and health officials are advising that everyone should be used to the first aid treatment. Whenever we talk of first aid, many know only the lateral position of security. Michelle Ndiba has been a full teacher at government practicing primary school Kribi for over 10 years.
Now to our major lead story. From rights defenders to political actors and civil society, Cameroonians are unanimous that the gendarmerie brutality on human rights lawyer Barrister Tamfo Richard is unacceptable. With much anger and bitterness, Cameroonian stakeholders condemn the brutality, calling for immediate actions against perpetrators. Fomi Armstrong Sanda is the man on that story.
It is with much anger and bitterness that Cameroonian civil society and political actors address the torture and brutality on human rights lawyer Barrister Tamfo Richard by some gendarmerie officers in Douala, Cameroon. Cameroon Bar President Batonier Bar Eric Mba qualifies it as dehumanizing and unacceptable.
The Cameroon Bar Council has watched with unprecedented shock the video of our colleague, of a very learned colleague, Barrister Tamfo Richard, who's been picked up in some manu militaris, treated in the most filthy manner, dumped behind a police van, and smashed and maltreated as the worst common law thief. Justice will not only be done, but must and will be manifestly seen to be done.
It is the same view expressed by the CRM National President, Professor Maurice Camp, who says the torture inflicted on Barrister Tamfo Richard has been systematic and repetitive on his CRM party militants and opposing voices in Cameroon since 2018. The CRM leader says his party condemns the torture of Barrister Tamfo Richard with all energy and calls for strict sanctions against the perpetrators.
The call is that every young person in Cameroon needs to rise up. A threat to a single liberty in this country is a threat to the liberty of all Cameroonians. I mean it. Cameroon is just coming out from the bench of United Nations Human Rights Commission against torture, and the delegation of Cameroon refused that they are not torturing citizens in this country, but they are torturing even professionals. Barrister Tamfo Richard is a lawyer in the Cameroon Bar Council and also in the Nigerian Bar Council. Can you imagine what it means for a mere gendarme to lay his hands, brutalizing physically a human rights lawyer in that manner?
Enough is enough. Justice for Barrister Tamfo Richard and the strict punishments of the gendarmerie officers involved is the position of the Network of Human Rights Defenders in Central Africa, REDAC, expressed through the voice of its executive president, Maximilian Gombe.
On the same vein, the State Defense Secretariat has ordered for the opening of investigations in relation to the torture meted on Barrister Tamfo Richard by some elements of the National Gendarmerie. The Gendarmerie boss has given a 72-hour deadline for investigations to be revealed. Away from that, actors in the Cameroon Bioscience Society are brainstorming on strategies to delve into the economy and effectively contribute to import substitution of the development of Cameroon. Some of the ideas around investment, home production and marketing. The actors are meeting on campus of the University of Douala for this project. Innocent Aze reports.
At a time when the state needs the collaboration of all, as requested by the head of state to achieve emergence by 2035, the Cameroon Bioscience Society is booking its place on the train to that vision.
We chose the theme on import substitution to be in line, in synergy with the aspirations of the head of state when he said we need to produce more of what we consume and import less.
This bioscience community, in collaboration with universities, aim at equipping themselves with optimal scientific research to explore the economy of Cameroon and contribute to import substitution.
We as scientists, researchers in that domain of the life sciences, we are meeting the next few days to discuss on how we can contribute to getting the things we need produced. What type of research must we do? Research and innovation. What type of education must we adopt? Investments and so on to make good, to make this import substitution policy come true.
While converging on the campus of the University of Douala, actors in this Cameroon Bioscience Society will be sharing ideas to realize this goal.
We first of all have to begin with reviewing, looking at our educational system. What we teach, how we teach it, and when we teach it. The type of investments that we have to do. What should we be putting our money into? How should we be investing?
Investments and production of goods need to be done wisely if the must succeeds.
We need to produce goods that will have competitiveness, will have some advantage over. There's no need producing something that will cost maybe 1,000 francs to produce here in Cameroon, whereas you can just import the same thing for 200 francs CFA. So we need to select the type of things that we have to be putting our money into and how to do that.
These ideas to be discussed, analyzed and adopted will also help the government to strengthen the economy and accelerate its emergency drive.
Innocent as reporting there. The minister delegate at the presidency in charge of defense has reassured Cameroonians that despite the security problems affecting the country, their security is guaranteed, especially at the end of this year period. He was speaking during a security evaluation meeting in Yaoundé. Babila Jonathan tells us more.
Top security officials of the Republic of Cameroon review the security situation of the country as end-of-year festivities draw nearer. The minister delegate at the presidency in charge of defense, Joseph Betia-Somo, begins with a snappy look at the global situation, emphasizing on the African continent.
On the African continent in particular, the situation in the Sahel, where the criminal activities of terrorist groups continue to jeopardize the stability of many states, especially those of the Lake Chad Basin, remains a major concern, just as those of many armed irredentist movements that continue to enjoy the support from white-collar criminals held up around the world persist here and there throughout the continent.
He goes further, highlighting the volatile security situation prevailing in the crisis-stricken regions of Cameroon.
Our compatriots will spend this end-of-year period in a national context marked by pockets of security concerns, particularly in the far north, northwest, and southwest regions. For the particular case of the far north theater, although relatively under control, the security situation there remains delicate. While it is true that our forces remain committed to the initiative and continue to fully and courageously ensure the integrity of our national territory.
Amidst the security threat, Minister Betia-Somo reassures the population that all possible measures are being taken to ensure their security.
The architecture of our defense and security forces deployed throughout the national territory in close collaboration with the administrative authorities is on maximum alert, ready to counter, dissuade or stop any attempt to undermine our territorial integrity.
The top military officials are therefore fine-tuning strategies to counter all possible internal and external security threats.
Now in news out of the country, French President Emmanuel Macron has received Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for a 2-day trip. Paris is particularly interested in strengthening its relationships in the English-speaking Africa after experiencing several challenges with previous allies in the region. Elsewhere, vote counting began in Namibia for presidential legislative elections. Esedu Silengu has a roundup of our foreign news.
Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu arrived Orly Airport in Paris, France on Wednesday for a 2-day trip, the first of its kind by a Nigerian leader in more than 2 decades, as Paris seeks to boost ties with English-speaking Africa. Invited by President Emmanuel Macron, his exceptional visit aims at strengthening political, economic, and cultural ties between Nigeria and France. Key areas of collaboration include agriculture, security, education, health, youth engagement, innovation, and energy transition. They will also participate in a session hosted by the France-Nigeria Business Council, which promotes private sector involvement in economic development. Elsewhere in Namibia, voting continued early on Thursday, hours after the polls were scheduled to close for the presidential and legislative elections, which would test the ruling party's 34-year hold on power in the Southern African nation. Due to logistical challenges, many voters faced long waits even though the polls were meant to close at 9 p.m. Ballot counting had begun at some locations, with early results anticipated by Saturday according to the electoral schedule. And for several hours, social media platforms have been in turmoil following the tragic death of a young man who was beaten to death by his girlfriend's sports coach in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The incident, which occurred in Lubumbashi, the Democratic Republic of Congo's second largest city, has been widely shared across various social media platforms. Reports indicate that the young man succumbed to severe injuries inflicted by the coach. In the video circulating, the deceased is seen almost disfigured.
Asa Lucy Liangu, ending this first part of the news. Talking Point is up next. My guest tonight is a human rights defender. He's known as Dr. Barrister NKAMWAH. Good evening, Barrister. It's a pleasure to have you on Talking Point tonight.
Immaculate, nice meeting you this day.
Disturbing case of torture recorded in Cameroon. This time around, a legal mind, Barrister Tamfo Richard, is seen being molested by gendarme officers in Bonaberi Douala. You must have watched the video. How did you feel viewing that scene?
You know, I was so shocked and embarrassed when I saw, before knowing that it was even my colleague, I saw the video and I was just saying, but why this kind of brutality on a human being? Then later I got to understand that it concerns my colleague, my friend, my brother, Barrister Tamfo, and I was speechless. And then I visited him this morning in the hospital, and he told me under which context those things happen, and I want to tell you that it's a gross violation of his right and that of his client.
Barrister Tamfo says he was being tortured because he contested the arrest of his client without a warrant of arrest. Did he breach any law as a lawyer to stand for his client?
No, he was doing what the law prescribes. You know, criminal law is governed by 2 codes in Cameroon, the Penal Code and the Criminal Procedure Code. And in the Criminal Procedure Code, it is well written how arrests are taking place. The very first thing is that you cannot arrest a citizen without a warrant of arrest, to begin with. And in this case, these guys, the military people, were not even with a military vehicle, went to arrest a Cameroonian with a convocation, with a summon. I want to make it very clear that there is an illegal practice that these gendarmes are perpetuating in this country. Judicial police officers, let me use it generally in that sense. There is nowhere in the Cameroon Criminal Procedure Code where they talk about mandat de reception, that is summons, that immediate summons. You see, it's a transformation to them. That is what they use in arresting innocent Cameroonian. How do you, what is the purpose of giving a convocation, serving a summon, is to invite a party to be heard over a complaint. You see, and so when you come and you say, that I have a convocation to bring you a convocation, a summons does not represent a warrant of arrest which is signed by the State Council. The gendarmes cannot sign a warrant of arrest. It is an abuse that should stop. I'm calling on the authorities that be to do everything, especially Groupement de la Gendarmerie and other units, that they should stop this nonsense of using convocation de réception. And equally, they should stop sending out avis de recherche, using it to arrest innocent Cameroonians. Avis de recherche is done when you've served convocation and they don't know the whereabouts of somebody. That's why they come up with the search kind of a search warrant. You understand? Or a warrant of arrest. So the lawyer was doing exactly his job, and he was being brutalized by uncivilized, poorly trained, and careless uniformed men. You see, and to me, the officer who signed that de réception should be revoked from gendarmerie. And those hoodlums, those gendarmes who perpetrated that act should actually be revoked from police. By the way, we've taken a stand to bring an action against the culprits at the level of the military tribunal. Nobody's above the law in this country, and gendarmes should know that they are not above the law. But it does not surprise me when they go to the quarter and pick poorly people with poor character, people who've not gone to school, to make them gendarmes, to make them gendarmes agent or gendarmes. What do you expect from them? In a civilized country, you not see that rubbish. And equally, the population was a dormant population, because you will not see that a lawyer is being brutalized or an individual is being brutalized and then you stay quiet. In another country, they would have burned down that car. I'm not saying that it is right to burn the car, but in another country, it would have caused something else. It would have caused a public disorder created by gendarmes, poorly trained gendarmes. Let me add it that way.
Now, Dr. Barrister LIMEN, this is happening few days after the Secretary of State in the Ministry of Defense in charge of the National Gendarmerie, Etoga Galax Yves Landry, called on his collaborators to put an end to what he qualifies as torture and abusive detention in gendarmerie units. Should we see this as disrespect to the directives of the gendarmerie boss, or a manifestation of the fact that the gendarmerie boss didn't mean business in his outing?
No, I would not want to associate to think that they did not mean business. We have a general here who is a human right, who respects human rights. We are blessed with the company Legion commander. He respects human rights. But there is something wrong with this Groupement de la Gendarmerie. Some few months back, there was some few weeks they changed the former commander who was there, who was equally a human rights. He will not violate human rights flagrantly as this. But 2 weeks ago they had a new commander, and we are seeing what is happening. Last week I was in the same situation. My client called me that I've come to arrest him. I said, for what? So I asked if they have shown him a warrant of arrest. He said no. I called for 1501, which is hotline, gendarme hotline, and I'm calling on all Cameroonians. It's very easy. 1501, that's 1501 is gendarme hotline. If a gendarme is molesting you or violating your right, call that number. You'll be speaking directly to a service that will take over from there. And for police, it's 1,500. So Cameroonians should learn to use that as an instrument to defend themselves.
Used an ordinary white Toyota pickup vehicle instead of the well-known green gendarmerie pickup vehicle. Is that something to be worried about?
Of course, It shows that he was using the complainant's car. And then you should know, of course, why he did that. They did that because of personal interest. When you come and you give them money, they are ready to go and arrest people arbitrarily, which is an offense. Which is an offense. And that's why I'm saying that they were just fortunate that the population was the kind of population that was not kind of they were not boisterous, they were not angry population. They would have burned down that car. They would have burned down that car and caused public disorder. And who will be blamed? The two elements who were sent by who? By their boss to go and arrest a citizen with a convocation, with a summon. That's the kind of gendarmes we are talking about. That's the kind of country they have reduced us to. But I'm saying the Bar Council will probably do something, and for us, member of Douala Lawyers Association, I'm the vice president, we are going to bring an action. We are going to bring an action against corporate at the level of the military tribunal, and this will not happen again.
Why are these acts persistent in Cameroon, whereas the country is signatory to the United Nations Convention against torture and other inhumane or degrading punishment?
One is corruption. You go and corrupt, you go and give a military, a gendarme officer, you give him monies. Say, look, I want, and it's corruption. The first one is corruption. Corruption. And the second one is poorly trained officers. Do they maintain their, do they merit their ranks? You can see a lieutenant and discover that he does not even merit the rank. In his head, he doesn't merit the rank. So they are first of all ignorant of human rights, and they think that when they wear uniform, they are protected and they are above the law. So what will make the gendarmes live with someone to go and arrest an innocent citizen in the workplace using a white car, not official car, is only motivated by money, that they collected money to render that kind of a service.
What exactly can the government of Cameroon do to limit cases of torture in this country? In 2019, you defended a thesis titled The Critical Appraisal of the Enforcement of Human Rights by the Judicial Police Officers. Can you tell us more about these recommendations you outlined?
Well, that was a master's thesis I wrote on the appraisal of the enforcement of human rights by judicial police officers in Cameroon. I recommended that at the level of training, they should make them to understand, to know how to respect human rights. So at the level of training, it's very important for them to know that it's not because you are putting on a uniform that you have the powers to violate people's rights. That is one. Two, the government should fight against corruption, because all this act is perpetrated because of money that they have collected. Three, the government should create training sessions to refresh their minds that they should respect human rights. And fourth is that the citizens should know their rights. The government has put in place 1,501 hotline for gendarmes, 1,500 for police, and we fail to use those hotlines. Once you use those hotlines, the gendarmes or the judicial police officer is aware that whatever steps he or she is taking will be sanctioned if they violate. So Cameroonians should equally be aware. There should be that awareness that without a warrant of arrest, don't go anywhere. If the gendarmes got my friend beaten, my colleague beaten because he protested that without a warrant you cannot arrest, I am telling it to them directly in their face that without a warrant of arrest, you will not arrest one Cameroonian. And if you have me on your way and you are coming to arrest my client without a warrant of arrest, know that it's going to be something else. It's going to be something else. We have to respect the law. We don't live in the jungle. And if you come in jungle way, we all go the jungle way. There must be law in this country. It's not only when Cameroonians revolt that they send out. Situations like this can cause a huge social unrest. So I am telling them I am schooling them that they don't arrest Cameroonians without a warrant of arrest. And gendarmes don't issue warrant of arrest. It's a state council, the courts, that can issue a warrant. And so gendarmes learn to do your work. There is a code, the Criminal Procedure Code, that helps you, that guides you in carrying out your duties, that we lawyers, we know, and we are out to protect our clients. And we will protect our clients even with our bloods.
Senior Barrister NKAMWAH LIMEN, thank you so much for your time. That's it for this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for always staying with us. Stay in the company of Serge Alain Otto and his guests in Yaoundé for the program Equinoxe. See you tomorrow, same time, God willing. Bye-bye for now.